And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We're talking with Diane Brandon, author of Intuition for Beginners. So let's begin, Diane. So how did you first, what were some of the first things you learned around developing your own intuition?
You know, for me, Sam, it was on-the-job training. Now, I will back up and say, you know, back in grad school, you know, I did buy some tarot cards and I Ching, and my roommate in grad school and I would sometimes, you know, do little readings for each other, but I hadn't really focused on those in years, and I had never weaned myself off the external tools. So when I started working with my intuition, and I will confess, it was on a 900 line, because at the time I was still pursuing performing.
Right.
And so it was really like flying without a net.
Gotcha.
And I was very, very nervous about it.
Right.
But I was getting positive feedback, so that in itself was confusing to me at the time.
Right.
And I continued to do it within less than a year. You know, I was already doing private work, not on the 900 line.
Right. Okay.
And it just took off. It just took off. I live in the Research Triangle, Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill in North Carolina.
Okay.
And metaphysics or spirituality has always been big in this area. And so it was at a time in the area where there was just a lot going on. And so I learned over time. Initially, I was thinking, well, most of my information seems to be coming in the form of impressions. And then I learned, oh, no, some of it's kinesthetic. I'm feeling this. Then sometimes I would get visual images or I would get colors.
Okay.
It just kind of expanded. I could look back and realize after I finally could accept, okay, I am intuitive, I could look back and go, okay, well, I've always been inner guided. That has been with me forever.
Right.
It's always been huge.
Right.
And so it was kind of a gradual series of things being revealed to me about my own intuition. And of course, in doing the work, I learned so many things. I had not theorized about people having a specific essence in a lifetime, but in my work with people, I realized over time that one of the first things I was doing with a new client was reading their essence. It was like, oh, well, I have to chew on this idea. And so there were all these little revelations. That's why I wrote my first book, Invisible Blueprints, because I was so taken aback by some of the information, you know, that I was getting. And I think that's an important point too, Sam, that if people will give permission to themselves to explore their intuition, many doors will open that they may not foresee, and many insights will come to them that they don't foresee. The same too, I think there's a more generalized sort of thing going on with this, and this has to do with allowing ourselves to get out of the box that we live in or that our culture has ingrained in us, and to start exploring parts of ourselves that we may not know are there. I call it the deep inner diving, exploring the deeper parts of ourselves. Intuition is one way of doing that. Exploring our dreams is another way of doing that.
Right.
It not only enriches our lives and enlarges our sense of ourselves, but there is so much treasure lying within us. I liken it to like this little treasure chest that's inside of us. We don't even know what's there until we open it and we start to look inside.
Right.
So that's what dreams, intuition, spiritual unfolding, personal unfolding all have in common.
And we're going to get to dreams a little bit
riches.
more.
And the other part of this has to do with our personal stuff and working on clearing those personal old problematic things, whether it's old dysfunctional thinking or programming or a mindset or a fear from experiences in the past. And that not only allows us to feel better and lead a richer, more fulfilling life, it also opens us up more to what I call our higher soul awareness. And being able to get to those other levels spiritually.
Right.
So, there's so many benefits from all of this.
Right. Yeah, and I do want to talk more about dreams and dream interpretation a little bit. Just first, a quick shout out. We got some love on the Facebook live stream. Thank you, Carson, Roger, and Lee for liking the stream. And for those listening and want to see the stream afterwards, it will be posted up on my Facebook timeline. Excuse me. So just before we move to dreams, I'm just curious, is there one, I don't know, let's call it one outrageous sort of thing that came to you very intuitively that you were kind of like, really? Or like really, surprised you that later on kind of got borne out and like surprised you in a big way?
Yes, I don't know if I would say got really borne out, but there were times when I would get intuitive information, and it would actually be in conflict with my own concepts.
Okay.
And over time, I would go, okay. One of these that really blew me away was that I got that, and since I've gotten it for a few more people, that one soul was expressing itself through two different bodies.
Okay.
Living at the same time.
Right. Well, what did
At first I thought, well, that's strange. And of course, one very common one is that I typically felt that we have a soulmate.
Right.
That's kind of like the through eternity. Right. Soulmate, and I've gotten information that no, that can really, yes, soul connections are extremely important in relationships.
Right.
And when I look at a person's relationship, I also look at the soul connection in addition to the dynamics in the present lifetime. But there are times when two people may have that energy on a soul level of being soulmates or partners, but it's not to happen in the present lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, that idea of like one soul sort of expressing itself through two different bodies, I mean, that basically is, I think like that concept of twin flames. I hear people talk about twin flames all the time, but I don't think they really understand it. And it's really not something that's very common and not something that I think everyone will experience in their life. But that special connection, I guess there are all kinds of sort of strange ways in which spirit manifests in physical reality that kind of go beyond sort of our preconceptions of the way things, quote unquote, should be. Absolutely.
And that leads me to another, and I've known this for years, Sam. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times as humans we want these simple little rules for how things happen, but this is a very, very creative universe.
Right.
And there aren't rules.
Yes. Right,
I could go off on a tangent on that, and I won't. And I think it's important for us just that this is a creative universe.
Yes, absolutely. And an expanding one that's constantly finding new and different ways to express itself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just checking on the back end of our listeners through the website. Welcome aboard Indonesia and Egypt. Wow, we got a lot of international countries listening us today. I think we got about 9 or 10 different countries listening online. And a big shout out to my friend Willie, who just said awesome and gave us a nice happy smile face on the Facebook live stream. Okay, Diane, let's move on to dream interpretation. Actually, I have a dream I have to ask you about. But first, let's just talk about a little bit. How did you I mean, I guess they kind of naturally go together, but how did you end up sort of expanding from focusing on intuition to now sort of including the world of dreams in your work?
Well, it's interesting, Sam, because I actually started with the interest in dreams, at least 20 years before my intuition came along.
Ah, okay.
And sometimes I'll joke and say that it's because I love to sleep. But that's not really a joke. I mean, number one, I do love to sleep.
Yeah, me too.
I think I was told before I came into this lifetime, because one of the things I remember thinking when I was born was that I didn't want to be here again. But I think I was told that when I slept, that was the closest I could come to being back on the other side. So I've always embraced sleep.
Interesting. Okay.
For some reason, I've always been plugged into symbols, and I've always looked for meaning. And so with dreams have always fascinated me, and I have always sensed that they were another world, and they are.
Right.
And the more I have delved into them over the years, the more complexity that I have seen, because I've come to learn that there are different types of dreams, there are different potential sources of dreams.
Okay.
And some people will be put off by a dream appearing to be really, really bizarre.
Right.
But if a dream is coming from our unconscious has its own vocabulary. Mm-hmm. Our unconscious works in a very, very different way from our conscious mind. There's some physiological reasons, for why our unconscious is more predominant while we're sleeping.
Right.
But symbolism. I guess I've always loved symbolism, because even in high school, when I had to explicate, a short story or a poem, it was easy for me.
Right.
And the more I delved into dreams, the more richness I saw with meaning. Mm-hmm. The more I also saw that dreams can also provide us many, many different benefits in our lives. They're very, very enriching. They can give us information on personal growth. Mm-hmm. For example, they can give us insights for our life path, our purpose. They can give us health information. There are spiritual aspects. There are places we go not even while we're dreaming, but in the deepest levels of sleep. And that's when we tend not to bring back a conscious memory. We can be taken to other places. We can be taught things. I mean, taken spiritually to, other levels of the universe, other dimensions.
Right.
And we can be worked with spiritually. We can be taught things.
Right.
We can even use our sleep and dreams for problem solving.
Right.
Many people have gotten creative inspiration or even scientific answers, while sleeping and dreaming. So this is a rich, rich world. I think we look at it as, okay, it's this black pit that we descend into, and oh boy, there's nothing there. It's not. It's the other thing that we don't pay attention to. We pay attention to our waking, conscious life, but when we're sleeping, some people have said that our waking reality is Maya. It's the illusion.
The illusion, right.
That's while we're sleeping, that's the reality. But it's a wonderfully rich world, Sam, with so many different benefits for us.
Right. Okay, wonderful. All right, believe it or not, it's time for us to take our last commercial break of the show. When we come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a dream I had recently and see what you think of that. Okay, Diane?
Oh, wonderful. I look forward to that.
Oh, wait. All right. So everybody, you got to stay tuned if you want to hear about my dreams. So please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, and we'll be right back.